at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Tuesday, March 10th. As always, virus or not, I'm here to be your MBFF. And if there is some big outbreak in New York, we have plans to continue broadcasting all of our shows here on the news channels, such as this one, Patriot, POTUS, and of course the more formal news and Dr. Radio. So we're going to be here. As of now, it's, in New York, it's growing. Around the nation, it's growing. We're not just going to talk about the coronavirus. We are going to talk about politics as well tonight, but we have no choice but to start talking about that, considering what's happening right now. There's a White House coronavirus briefing. Trump is not a part of it, which is good. Look, on the right, we've seen on Fox News and Fox Business, which tends to be on now in these studios, a drumbeat of disinformation, telling you not to be worried, parroting Donald Trump's lies, that it's a hoax, the mortality rate's not what it is, this is just like the flu. Rush Limbaugh said the same things over and over and over. Last night, Tucker Carlson broke from that. Tucker Carlson last night was responsible. No, I'm not agreeing with Tucker Carlson. He's agreeing with me and the sane world that this is not the flu. This is not close to the flu. This is something much more lethal, much more transmittable, it appears. And I want to play Tucker Carlson, who last night, while not mentioning Donald Trump, mentions people you voted for and supported, which he is suggesting there it is Trump and Republicans. First, he talks about Democrats politicizing it. I'm not going to play that clip. That was the thing he did to give himself cover for what he was really about, which was warning the audience at Fox News, which that audience, based on market studies, skews the oldest of any cable news audience. So they're doing a service by telling this audience that is older that this is life-threatening. And this is especially life-threatening if you are 70 or 80 or even in your 50s or 60s and have some underlying condition. And here, I'm going to play Tucker Carlson about a minute. We cut it together. It's all fair. And this is the right thing to do. I'm not going to applaud him. He did the right thing. And thankfully, somebody on Fox News, because right after he does this, Sean Hannity goes on his show going, this is just like the flu. They're trying to scare you. So here's Tucker Carlson last night, clip number 1.
People you trust, people you probably voted for, have spent weeks minimizing what is clearly a very serious problem. It's just partisan politics, they say. Calm down. In the end, this is just like the flu, and people die from that every year. Coronavirus will pass, and when it does, we will feel foolish for worrying about it. That's their position. No doubt these people have good intentions as they say this, many of them anyway. They may not know any better. Maybe they're just not paying attention, but they're wrong. The Chinese coronavirus is a major event. It will affect your life. And by the way, it's definitely not just the flu. In a typical year, the flu in this country has a mortality rate of about 1 in 1,000. The overall death rate for this virus, by contrast, is as high as 3.4%. That's 34 times deadlier. But even that number masks the true effects because the mortality is not distributed evenly. For those aged 70 to 79, the death rate is about 8%. For those over 80, it's nearly 15%. Death rates are also higher for those with diabetes, respiratory ailments, or heart conditions. That's a lot of people.
That's probably the first time in prime time on Fox News during this entire outbreak that the audience was told the truth. That they were told this is not the flu. This is at least 34 times more deadly. And basing on age, a lot of viewers of Fox News are older. It is even more potentially lethal. That's the right thing to do. But he said, there are people out there, some you support, will just tell you, stay calm. It's just like the flu. This is going to pass. And sure enough, Donald Trump 2 hours ago said that. Here he is, Donald Trump, in the halls of Congress saying, stay calm, and then listen closely. Then he talks about business. shipping and airplanes, not people, not you, not your family. Here's clip number 2.
And we're prepared, and we're doing a great job with it, and it will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. We want to protect our shipping industry, our cruise industry, cruise ships. We want to protect our airline industry, very important. But everybody has to be vigilant and has to be careful. But be calm. It's really working out, and a lot of good things are going to happen. The consumer is ready. The consumer is so powerful in our country with what we've done with tax cuts and regulation cuts and all of those things. The consumer has never been in a better position than they are right now.
The consumer has never been in a better position? Are you worried about your consumer habits? Are you worried that maybe you can't buy things? Or are you worried about the health of your loved ones? Donald Trump is missing empathy and a compassion gene. At some time in the future, the term Trump will be shorthand to describe a serial lying sociopath. You won't have to explain serial lying sociopath anymore. You'll say Trump, and they go, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's Trump. He's just going to shut his mouth and let the experts, and for your sake and for your family's sake, for all you people you love and hold dear, ignore Donald Trump. Ignore everything he says, especially about this virus. Listen to the health professionals. Listen to local and state leaders, even Republicans. They are showing that they are concerned about you and your family. Donald Trump is not. And that shows Trump is always about Trump. In fact, just a short time ago, before we went on air, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders announced they're canceling their rally scheduled for Ohio tonight, based on advice of healthcare professionals. Donald Trump will never cancel those rallies unless forced beyond his control, because Trump cares about one person, Trump. It's always Trump. That's what's going on. So do you want an update on where we are? We are now, Trump's like, all good things are happening. We are now over 950 confirmed cases in the United States of America in 36 states. 29 Americans have died. All of these numbers are going, and I'm going to be blunt when I say this, they're going to explode. And they're going to explode because the test kits are finally getting out there. And there are people walking around who are sick. In fact, the LA Times today did a report based on a new scientific report by doctors. They estimate that by March 1st, which is 9 days ago, there were already in the U.S. 1,000 to 10,000 people who were sick and had not been tested. The delay in testing is what's causing a huge problem. And the delay in testing is because of the Trump administration. We don't know why. They knew this was coming. They saw it in China. We all did. Trump bragged in Davos in late January. We're ready. Well, what happened is, for some reason, the Trump administration did not want to use the World Health Organization's test kits, the same kits that had been shipped to nearly 60 countries to use, and they had been using it fine. Trump administration said, no, we don't want it. We want to create our own test. The CDC then tried to set it up. It didn't work in the beginning. Why the United States, according to Politico's reporting, there's a great article yesterday, why the U.S. declined to use the World Health Organization test, even temporarily as a bridge, no one knows. Neither Pence nor anyone on this committee will tell them. Right now there's a press conference. I'm hoping the reporters are pressing them, because this delay of several weeks is going to be, and I'm no doctor, but based on everything I read, I think extremely significant. And in a really bad way. In fact, Senator Patty Murray from Washington State sent a letter saying, please provide an explanation for why the COVID-19 diagnostic test approved by the World Health Organization was not used. She sent that to the administration. Still, they're not answering it. Now, the most cynical approach is Trump wanted to let corporations in America get the business, and we might find out the corporations that were approved, the labs that were approved, guess what? We might find out they donated to Trump and to Republicans. We might find that out. I'm not sure about that, but we know Trump. So if there's a reason he didn't want to use a foreign product, want to develop one here, everything goes in Trump's mind and comes out. How does it help me? How does it make me money? How does it help me politically? To me, it would make sense if he gave the business to donors. We'll find out about that. But Americans, we will find out in time, are likely going to die because of this delay. And that means there are people out there who are asymptomatic, who are walking around and getting people sick. But if they had been tested, they would have been quarantined. In fact, even though more kits are going out and private companies have been approved to develop the test and start using them, here is the Secretary of Health and Human Services today, Alex Azar, on CNN. I'm going to play this clip. There are no words for this. He's asked how many Americans have been tested. His answer, we don't know, but we're hoping in a week to set up a communication system where when the tests are done, it's told back to us at the federal government and the CDC and the Trump administration. You're hoping a week? Why wasn't that day one? This is a level of incompetence that you would read about in a third world country after the fact, and going the perfect storm that led to a catastrophe in that nation could have been prevented. Here's Alex Azar today with John Berman. Clip number 3.
How many Americans have been tested at this point?
We don't know exactly how many because hundreds of thousands of our tests have gone out to private labs and hospitals that currently do not report into CDC. We're working with the CDC and those partners to get an IT reporting system up and running, hopefully this week, where we would be able to get that data to keep track of how many we're testing. We think we've got throughput at the moment, probably 10,000 a day, or it could be getting tested by the end of the week, 20,000 a day, according to a study by AEI that I heard about. We've got now 2.1 million tests available, and 1.1 million have shipped. We actually have a surplus at the moment that are awaiting orders to be shipped.
But you don't know? You honestly don't know? You don't know how many people have been tested?
Well, because a private vendor shipped most of those 1.1 million that shipped were from a private vendor selling to their customers, and those entities that use their tests do not have to report back to CDC, but we're trying to set up a reporting system where they would in fact do that.
You're going to try to set up a reporting system? Don't you think if you really wanted to find out where people are sick, where there are clusters of people in sick, and then deal with it to mitigate the spread of it, you would want reporting swiftly of results? Because if you have a bunch of tests that are all negative, well, you know, that area, it's not spreading. That's great. Instead, they're just sending kits out. And there's no path in place to mandate reporting back to the federal government. Who would do this? I mean, this is a level of incompetence that goes to almost a criminal level. It almost rises to the level of manslaughter. I'm not kidding. I'm saying that as a lawyer, because I can't wrap my head around this level of incompetence. Not taking the WHO test, the World Health Organization test, when they could have, then screwing it up. Screwing it up is the most understandable. They made a mistake. Just use the WHO test in the interim. But they didn't. And now private vendors are sending it out. So you've got Azar going 10,000 a day or whatever. I just talked to Senator Chris Von Hollen from Maryland, literally right before we interviewed him, right before the show. I'll play it later. He said in Maryland, they still need kits. He goes, we're only capable of testing 100 people a day. I'm like, what? What is going on here? This misinformation from Trump down and his administration means you've got to not look to this administration. Look to local officials. Look to state officials. Doesn't matter what party they are. I'm sure they're better than Trumpers in this Trump world. Look to healthcare experts. And then the head of the CDC testified today on Capitol Hill a few hours ago, and they asked him about this testing gap and what's going on. How come the public testing facilities, and there's obviously a difference. There's private labs like Quest. I think people know Quest. You send your results. You get a physical here in New York. It goes to Quest. Those are private. But the public labs are the first ones to test. They asked him why are there not more tests done. Here's what he has to say, folks. They don't have the funding, the people, the equipment needed. Wouldn't it be great if Trump didn't use his money and stole money for this stupid wall? He gave billions to do this, but here's Robert Redfield saying today, we don't have the money. Clip 4.
But people who go locally, and it goes to the state lab, there's still a delay. I mean, we've been waiting for about 5 tests for a number of days. Like every day, the headline is still waiting for the test results. Could you quickly speak to that?
Great question, and it's why I hope in the time I get, I accomplish what I want in building core capability. These public health labs need redundancy. They don't have it. This is when I go back about the core capability of data, lab, people, rapid response fund, and global health. The truth is we've not invested, we've underinvested in the public health labs.
There aren't enough people to
There's
run
not
the
enough
tests?
equipment, there's not enough people, there's not enough internal capacity, there's no surge capacity.
This is the United States of America. And you have a pandemic And you have the head of the CDC going, we don't have enough people or money to test people. And we know in 2018, 2019, Donald Trump cut the budget, his administration, that would have funded some public health initiatives. We know that Trump, when the person who was in charge under Obama to deal with pandemics left, they didn't fill that. But Trump, of course, took billions of dollars to build his wall. There's a Washington Post op-ed today by Tom Bossert. He is the former Homeland Security advisor to Donald Trump. He's not a Democrat. Tom Bossert. It is an eye-opening, stunning op-ed. I encourage everyone to read it. I'll read a little bit of it. It literally took my breath away. I'm not kidding. He writes here, this virus is such a threat because it is both highly infectious and lethal, and not enough people are being tested, despite significant recent efforts by the Centers for Disease Control. By the time the cases are confirmed, significant community transmission has likely already occurred. And that's why testing is so meaningful, getting as many tests out there. He talks about what we need now. Now, school closures, isolation of the sick, home quarantines. He goes on to say telecommuting, not going to work together, must be implemented, he says, before the spread of the disease reaches 1%. Quote, after that, science tells us these interventions become far less effective. 2 weeks of delay can mean the difference between success and failure. If we fail to take the action, we will watch our healthcare system be overwhelmed. He went on to talk about our hospitals. The infrastructure of our hospitals will break down. That truly frightened me. Not for me. For my mom, for older people, people who have present conditions, underlying conditions, and you get sick. And you're like, well, I'll go to the hospital. And there's no beds. You know what they're doing in Italy? And I'm not telling this to scare you. I'm telling this because I read it and it's true. They're essentially doing triage, which, if you know what that means, a patient comes in and there are 3 different ways of assessing them. One, they can help them. One, they can do some things. But the third, they can't do anything for them. And they're doing that with people over 65 who have underlying conditions. They're giving them an IV, and that's it. Because they have to focus on saving the younger people. And the people have more of a chance to survive. It's cold, it's calculated, it's from wartime. That's when they do triage. They are doing that in Italy. That's where they are. They are 200% bed capacity of their hospitals. In fact, Tom Bossert in the op-ed talks about what happened in Italy as a case study for what we should not do. He talks about on February 20th, Italy reported 3 infections, no known deaths. By the next day, 20 cases and 1 death. Officials implemented interventions at that point, including school closures and sort of a little bit of a quarantine. That sounds great, right? That's February 21st. It was already too late. A week later, it went from 20 cases to 2,000 cases with 140 people in serious conditions, 52 deaths. Where are we now in Italy? Nearly 10,000 cases, nearly 500 dead, and a nationwide quarantine. He says, by contrast, Hong Kong and Singapore moved really quickly. The outbreak happened. They closed things down. It was almost essentially surveillance, quarantining, and the virus has not grown. They were able to contain it. We've lost that. We are at mitigation. If you listen to the experts now use that term, we're beyond containment. We're at mitigation. That means we lost that window that Singapore and Hong Kong did to keep it from spreading. Today, Governor Cuomo here in New York sent the National Guard to New Rochelle, New York, which is now the biggest epicenter of this disease, apparently, in the country. It started with a couple of people getting sick. The containment area will be about a mile long for 2 weeks. They're going to close businesses, schools, places of worship. National Guard's going to go there to sanitize it and make sure they can bring food people there, plus, I think, enforce the quarantine. To be blunt, you know, those people who said this is just like the flu, like Trump said 2 days ago with his tweet. Do you remember during a seasonal flu, the National Guard being called out? I don't. Today, countless colleges have canceled schools. Festivals were canceled. You've got the Ivy League basketball tournament canceled. Biden and Sanders canceled their rallies. And this is where we are. And then I want to play one clip from Governor Cuomo to update you on the virus itself. This is very important. He is sharing with you what he's hearing from healthcare experts because there's something no one knows. I don't think they're keeping it from us. Yesterday, if you tuned in and we talked about the potential this was an airborne virus, and that's not what you think of the idea of you sneeze and a droplet gets on you. An airborne virus is like the measles. A person can sneeze or cough and then leave and no one's there and you walk into it and the virus is still in the air and you catch it. That's why in 2018, compared to Ebola and SARS, 2003, about 8,000 people worldwide get it. It's no airborne. It's got to be through droplets on your hands. You touch your face. Ebola, even harder to get. About 25,000 people got it. 2018, this is not 1918. 2018, there was a measles outbreak. Measles is contagious by through droplets plus airborne, meaning it's in the air and nobody's there. 28 million people got it. 150,000 people died. Not in America, of course, worldwide. That's the difference between airborne. Governor Cuomo has been scratching his head about, is it airborne or not? He's going to share now what he thinks it is. And this maybe makes more sense than truly airborne because everybody at CPAC or thousands at CPAC would have gotten sick. So the good news is maybe this is not like measles, that airborne. But here's what might be going on. And it's speculation, but here's clip number 5.
There is a debate about how long the virus can live on hard surfaces. And you have differing opinions now. Some opinions are the virus can live on a hard surface such as stainless steel or plastic for 2 days or more. If that's the case, that would be a significant issue as to why it is transmitting the way it does. So cleaning those surfaces is very important, cleaning it with the right material, and the National Guard will be helpful on that.
You know, not to alarm anybody, but this is the scenario they're considering why this is moving so quickly in communities. Someone with the virus on their hand touches a counter. It stays there for 2 days. It's alive for 2 days. There's nobody sneezing in front of you, no one coughing in front of you. You touch the counter. You touch your face later, you're infected. Not as bad as measles, but worse than the normal seasonal flu. So, as I was saying yesterday, this is somewhere between the seasonal flu and the bubonic plague and measles. And let's hope, and it seems to be in the middle somewhere. And again, as I made the point yesterday, and I'm going to have an expert on in a little while, so much of this is that the doctors have never seen this virus before. Not like ominously, like, oh my God, we've never seen a virus like this before. No, it's a new virus, just like strains of the flu are a new virus for a year. But then they develop a vaccine. Our bodies develop immunities. They can study it. It's a new virus. It's a novel coronavirus. That's why its real name is COVID-19. A coronavirus is just one of a series of viruses that corona is Latin for like crown. It looks like a crown on it. That's what the experts say. So it's a new virus and doctors just don't know. That's what's going on. That uncertainty is concerning people. We're going to take some calls here and there. We got a lot of guests, but some really great guests. Juliet Kayyem is going to join us. You see her maybe all the time on CNN. She's a professor at Harvard. She was the head of Homeland Security for Massachusetts, the state of it, and also in the Obama administration as an undersecretary. They had a great seminar I watched online, because this is what I do, at Harvard yesterday, and I know her a little. And it was great about containing this, the risk, and what's really going on. Nonpartisan, non-political, just inform you of what's going on, what we should expect to see, and what we should be seeing by our elected officials. What we should be demanding. Err on the side of caution. Closing schools or canceling events for a few months, postponing it, could be the difference between a massive outbreak that takes thousands of lives or something much, much smaller, much more contained. So let's take a break. 866-997-4748. I promise you we're going to talk about the election tonight. After this part here, we'll get to more politics. Elie Mystal is going to join us in the third hour. We'll talk about politics. We'll take calls. We'll talk about the coronavirus as well with him. Be right back with more of the Dean Obeidallah Show and you as my guest right here. At this point, the question is not who connected to Donald Trump as a criminal. The question is anyone connected to